I'm talking about young people, and we talked about it the other day, and for me it's not just about a 13 to 18 or 13, it's that whole period as this young person begins to go to find that they're struggling with questions about and reacting to the world they live in, often reacting to their parents, reacting to the world around them, and don't quite know what to do. Now, if we step back from that, so that could be anything where a 10, 11-year-old through to, late teens, even early 20s. And I'm not trying to stretch it, but say there's a crisis during that period. For me, and for the way we teach here, and this model we teach here within psychosynthesis, that for me is the first existential crisis that the individual has or goes through. And I say existential because it's all about what's the point, and reaching for some level of meaning. And so that period, if we start seeing it as an existential crisis, we see that there's not only is there real opportunity, but very often we don't see adolescence very clearly. And if we're on the other side, if we're parents, if we're in schools as teaching, we see it as extremely difficult. We often misunderstand that actually this young person, has really, for the first time in their lives, struggling with what do I want? Really, what do I want in my life that is going to have meaning for me? It doesn't mean to say, and it seems very selfish, all of that stuff, which it is, and it has to be. Because it's about how do I, as this young person, find my way? Because it's about me and me. It's no longer about what you're telling me, dear parents, or not so dear parents, and realizing I don't want to do it that way. And so there are different reactions. Some young people, they get hugely reactive, they rebel, they act out, all that stuff, in my terms, all that good stuff, because that shows something deeply is happening, it's obvious. And for others, they retreat, they really hide. And that's much more difficult, both for themselves, to some extent, for themselves and for the world around them, and particularly their parents. And for me, it's not an either or. The young people really have to get to grips with this. I think parents have to get to grips, and teachers actually have to get to grips with this period and say, wait a minute, there's another way of understanding this. There's a very extraordinary book written by Susan Cain, you may know about it. It's called Quiet. It's wonderful. It was written 7, 8 years ago. And in this book, Susan Cain talks about introversion and the world of introverts and how society doesn't allow introversion effectively. And a lot of young people, they introvert and they go inside to deeply think about themselves and their life. And it's very frightening for some. And for others acting out, they seem to do the opposite. But actually when you really talk to these young people, they're really worried about how do I work it out. Now if we don't understand that, and how to really be with that, then we start to put other layers on, and we look back to the past and say, oh, well, it's only because they were abused as a child, or they've just had difficult childhood. This happens to every young person. So that's why for us, in psychosynthesis, this model is just so powerful. And I think the project you're doing with these young people in schools is so essential. It really is. And that being able to talk to other people, your friends, about, this is what I struggle with, these are my feelings, what the Princess did last year about starting to open that dialogue, that mental health, it's not even, mental health is a real problem for me because it suggests there's some pathology in it, and it's wrong. I actually see it the other way. I see there are issues about the mind and feelings that need to be allowed. Whether it's about sadness, whether it's about grief, whether it's about anger, about the past, they need to be talked about in a way that is not only understood, because it won't always be understood, but in a pragmatic way that it's real. And young people, I think, we need to salute them and say, it's real. And what you're going through is so important.